Welcome, everybody. I am so excited. I have my very first guest in my new podcast, and I am so excited to have this beautiful woman with me. Her name is Yenory Pouncil, fourth generation Garifuna spiritual guide and self-trust catalyst for iconic leaders. Is recognized by Pinterest as a top global tastemaker, a co-founder of the Self-Trust Company. She reaches over 40,000 people per month. Known as the coach's coach, Yenory empowers clients to break through emotional barriers from expansive success. A spiritual healer featured in Forbes and Women's Health, she's a pole dancing, tea drinking, Dragon Ball Z fan, passionate about enthusiastic self mastery. I love that. I love that. And it just describes you beautifully, even with your beautiful crown. So, welcome, Yenory. Welcome to my podcast. I
Hello,
really appreciate
hello.
you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so thrilled to be your first. I feel so special. I promise to do my best to be gentle and make sure you have a good time.
Oh, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. So, I want to start off the podcast. As you know, my podcast is called Conversations about Sensuality. And it's even as I say it, I get like all like, ooh, like a little nervous, a little giddy. I'm not sure what to expect from this conversation. But my first question is, what is sensuality? Because there's so many different definitions out there, and I want to hear your perspective. It's like, what is sensuality?
So to me, sensuality, it really is about your connection to yourself and how you tap into this connection through your senses, whether
Hmm.
it be like your visual senses, your the vision, your touch, your smell, your taste. Like there's these five opportunities we have to connect with ourselves and to really get to know ourselves. So to me, sensuality is all about moving in harmony with all these parts of myself. And when it comes to how I show up to the world, so feeling like I look good, I smell good, taste good, like all the things, and just feeling
Right.
very much like I am in full ownership of my body and how I connect with my body, and I can see the beauty within me and then mirror that beauty back to others. So that to me is what sensuality is really all about.
I love that. And I'm glad you share that because there's so many misconceptions about what sensuality is. Because when I heard about sensuality, I automatically connected it to sexuality. So,
Mhm.
what is like really the difference there a little bit?
So for me, sensuality can exist outside of sexuality because
Hmm.
sexuality can be more of like the act of sex and having other people be a part of that experience. Where sensuality for me is more like the foreplay that comes before sexuality. Is that
Hmm.
touching and the stimulation and versus at least this is how I've learned to see this. Sexuality seems to be like kind of the end of it all, right? Versus like the beginning stages of this and kind of entering into that stimulation of connecting with yourself because sexuality is very sensual, right?
Hmm.
This very like dynamic between touch with two people. And then there's also like if you are tapping into your own sexuality without a partner, this is a very sensual act. And a lot of us have learned to just see sensuality as sexuality. So we
Hmm.
don't necessarily allow for that space. We just want to get to the point and be done with it versus
Right.
truly enjoying every part of the process, truly taking our time, whether you are with a partner or whether you're by yourself, just giving yourself the space to sit in the feelings and the senses and how you're feeling about these senses. A lot of times we don't realize that we have learned to see certain things in a certain way. And when we
Hmm.
start to tap into our sensuality, we can pay attention to, oh, this is how I respond to soft touch. This is how I respond to things that smell good. This is how I respond to taste that blow my mind. If I'm eating something that's really stimulating,
Hmm.
here's how I respond to like sound. Like I've been realizing that I can be very hypersensitive to sound. If it's really loud in a space, that's a sense that I'm like, I have to calibrate because I'm not
Hmm.
feeling very good where I am right now. So now it's impacting my entire experience. So I feel like sensuality is that invitation for you to connect with your senses. And then you can channel that energy when it comes to your sexuality and be intentional about it.
I love that. I love how you explain that. And I honestly, that's something I really struggle with. So let me ask you, like someone who is not connected to sensuality and like is learning this, like where can someone really start? Like, where did you start? Like, where did this come from for you? Where it's just like, I'm gonna do this, right? Because I feel like for me, I was guided to get in touch with my sensuality versus, oh, I want to do this. You know what I mean? I feel like it's not taught, especially as women, to be comfortable with your sensuality. So I guess I threw a lot at you right now, but like like where like how did you really get into this?
I would tell you the number one thing that led me into this was really learning to love myself. I grew up with so many visions and ideas around what images around what was a beautiful woman, what color she was, what size she was, what kind of clothes she wore. And I remember being in my 20s, I believe I was like 22, and I was graduating from undergraduate school, 21, 22. And around that time when I graduated, I had gained like 25 pounds. I was not looking like myself, but I didn't realize that because I am the type of person that if I gain weight, I just go up a size. I'm not the person that's just gonna like
Hmm.
with that one size, right? Like I just go up a size. And it wasn't until my cousins brought this to my attention that I realized how much I was out of alignment with how I like to look physically. And then I
Mm-hmm.
began to deconstruct what it meant for me to be a beautiful woman because I knew women around me that I felt were beautiful and I didn't feel beautiful because I didn't look like those women. So a lot for me, starting with this question of like, what would it take for me to love myself and to appreciate myself and to match my energy? Because I come off very confident and very strong, very grounded in myself. And I am those things. At the same time, I hadn't caught up to that part of myself. So I was saying the thing and showing up in the way. And internally, I was really stretched because I was not loving who I was. I didn't think I was beautiful. I didn't think that. And if I thought I was beautiful, I didn't think I was beautiful enough. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like I have to be more beautiful and I have to be slender or I have to have a bigger butt or I have to whatever, like all these different things. And for me, sensuality was a way for me to become familiar with myself at all these different levels and allow myself to love those parts of me, listen to the music that I enjoy and not be pressed if people don't like it, watch the things that I enjoy and not get upset if people don't want to watch it. Like I'm a huge anime fan. You
Mm-hmm.
literally just heard it in my bio. I'm very big into Dragon
Mm-hmm.
Ball, whole Dragon Ball universe. Like, not everybody understands that, right? So
Right.
being willing to watch what you want to watch and listen to what you want to listen to and allow these things to feel good to you to permeate your subconscious was all about me learning to love myself and learning to appreciate myself and not to feel like, well, their thing is better than my thing. It's looking at, no, this is who I am. This is what I enjoy. Like if I don't want to enjoy it, I can change my mind. I don't have to dilute myself though for other people. So it really was an act of self-love for me to begin to
Mm-hmm.
discover these things about myself and to be okay with the fact that I'm a bougie chick. Like I love to smell good. I love to look good. Like these are things
Mm-hmm.
that matter to me. And if here's here's how I'm showing up to a podcast
Right.
conversation, you know what I mean? Like this is my energy. And if someone feels like this is too much for them, then they were just not in alignment, right? It's not good or a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So sensuality has me for me has been that portal where I allow myself to eat what I like, drink what I like, smell how I want to smell, watch the things I want to watch, listen to things I want to listen to, and be at peace with that.
I love everything you just said. It makes so much sense to me now how sensuality connects. And it really comes down to really accepting yourself then. That's what
Yes.
I'm hearing. And it's a tool to help you accept yourself in all areas because you're right. Like everything you mentioned, I was like, I never felt I was beautiful enough. Or I would compare myself to everybody else, like, oh, they're beautiful, but not me. Like, I'm okay. Like, like always bringing myself down and not really loving myself enough in order to do that. And it's so interesting how you're mentioning, like, this was your tool to get to where you're at right now and accepting really who you are. And I feel like that's what everybody strives for.
And it can be really challenging because the beauty of sensuality is also what to some is the curse. And that is that it's whatever it means to you.
Mm-hmm.
Have to be what it means to me. It doesn't have to be what it means to another person. It's what it means to you. So it does require that you go beneath the surface and you
Mm-hmm.
look at yourself with uncomfortable honesty and realize maybe I don't like that shit I thought I liked because I was just around y'all and y'all keep on talking about it and I didn't want to be
Mm-hmm.
rejected. it because I like something else. Maybe I don't want to eat at that restaurant that y'all always pick to go eat because I hate the food there and I keep on going because I don't want to be that person. But in reality, I don't care for that type of cuisine. Like it's being willing to say, I'm not gonna listen to this music because I don't like this music. Like it's those like moments when we tend to silence ourselves because we
Mm-hmm.
want to go with the group, right? And we underestimate the impact of the collective thinking, the impact of the peer pressure that you experience when you're around other people. So you're like, at times you think, well, I'm exposing myself to something different, or at times you're just silencing your inner voice. And that can be very difficult for people because, again, it means what it means to you. And that means that there are going to be times when what sensuality means to you and what it means to me are different things. And
Mm-hmm.
then what do we do, right? Like, how do we keep the peace? Because most people are not willing to be okay with that. So part of it is you learning to be okay with yourself about the things that bring up these feelings of goodness and yumminess within you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you show people that it's okay to like what you like and fuck what you fuck with without being get caught up on. Can I curse on here?
Oh yeah, you totally can. Yes, please be yourself.
Um, if I'm gonna drive the F bomb, I want it to feel
Oh,
good. I
no,
want
no,
it to
no.
feel
Feel free.
honest, you
Feel
know?
free. No, feel free.
So that's a challenge because that requires us to be us, you know. It
Mm-hmm.
requires me to say, here's how I'm going to show up to this podcast. There's been interviews where I've showed up and I look like I'm the guest by somebody's perspective because that's just the energy I bring. And you know what the
Mm-hmm.
guest does? The host does? Sorry, I look like I'm the host. You know what the
I was
host
like,
does?
wait. Okay.
I look like I'm the host. So like the
Mhm.
host, I think like the way I show up to the conversation and in
Right.
those moments, the host will take a moment for themselves and then they will bring themselves to that point where they feel like, oh no, I'm matching that person's energy, right? So
Hmm.
if I silence myself, then that person is not gonna uplevel themselves because they're
Right.
gonna not gonna feel that, hey, I actually want to show up to myself like this. And it can be challenging for people because it requires that you are who you are and that you are okay with the fact that not everybody gonna like that shit and that you are
Mhm.
good with yourself
Yeah.
about that because it's not a requirement for you to like you.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think that's one of the hardest things when I started to start learning and embracing sensuality is I did hear that a lot. It's like sensuality is different for every single one of you. Like it does, you know. So what is one thing that someone like myself and anyone listening here that wants to learn what sensuality is to them and accepting it, like what would be like a first step that you would recommend someone to do?
The first thing that came up for me was mindful eating. And what I
Mm.
mean when I say that is try the foods that you like and really enjoy the thing, like really sit with it. Like don't worry about how gluttonous it might be or how, the calories and all that. No, no, no. Put all
Hmm.
that shit to the side. If you like a triple cheese pizza or whatever, eat that.
Hmm.
If you like dulce de leche ice cream like I do, just sit down and really eat this thing without judgment. Just allow yourself to like bask in it. What's going to happen when you do this is you're going to realize that the things that you have been judging yourself for liking, you don't like to eat that much of it. The
Mm.
reason why you start to eat so much more of it is because you're judging yourself for liking it. So you binge it. You go from like, I'm not gonna eat this, and then suddenly you're eating the whole carton or pint of like
Hmm.
helado, right? Or like ice cream. So give yourself the space to like mindfully take your time and eat what you want to eat. If you're a drinker and you like a glass of wine or two, whatever, sit down and like consume it and be present with it. Like feel how he touches your palate, feel the smell. Do you like how he smells? Does it remind you of something? You start to notice that the things that you're constantly consuming that may be quote unquote not healthy or even healthy, doesn't matter.
Hmm.
They are connected to like a memory. They're connected to someone. They're connected
Hmm.
to something that happened in your past. And then you can begin to be intentional around how you show up to those things. Like for me, one of the things I love to eat is dulce de leche ice cream. It's my favorite thing. And
Hmm.
that is connected to when I was in school. I've always liked things that are sweet. I've always had like a sweet tooth. So when I was in school, I used to buy this when I was in high school, I used to buy this candy called Sugar Daddy.
Hmm.
And what's Sugar Daddy but caramel? Is a whole thing. And I paid for it with my teeth. But like I
Yeah.
used to buy that all the time. So what's dulce de leche? Nothing but that caramel mixed with ice cream. So then now I'm looking at do I want to continue eating it that much? Is that important to me? So it just opens this window of
Mm.
opportunities for you to like learn about yourself. You can do it with like, if you like to listen to certain music, just play your favorite music, lay on the couch and just vibe out and like listen to it and see how you feel, see how your body responds to it. And you can begin to learn more about yourself through these simple activities. So that's how I recommend people
Mhm.
start. Like, that's what has helped me is being fully present to where I am. And then I realized I was judging myself because I am the person that will eat ice cream for dinner. And I realized that I don't do that often. And after I eat a certain amount of ice cream, I'm actually pretty done with it because the taste can be really overpowering.
Yeah,
And
too
I'm like,
sweet.
oh, it's too sweet. And then next thing you know, it's like it doesn't taste as good. The first scoop doesn't taste as good as the
Hmm.
fourth or the fifth scoop, right? So
Right.
like you get to learn about yourself around the way you judge yourself, around the things that you have seen are quote unquote bad, and you
Yeah.
get to see where those beliefs come from as well. So it's an invitation for you to just quiet everybody and allow yourself to feel into yourself. Like, what does it look like to have a red lipstick? I know you and I talked about red lipstick last time we talked.
Yeah, we did. That's why I'm
Red
wearing it.
lipstick, like I know I love it. And like, what does that feel like to me? How
Hmm.
do I feel? What are some of the things that come up for me? Like, that's all connecting into your sensuality. And like, if you're putting on a garment, like, how does it feel to put on that garment? Like today, I'm wearing this sort of mesh moment underneath
Hmm.
my dress, and I was like, this actually feels really good. It feels like I like mesh. It feels really like sexy when it's done really well. So
Right.
like, these are the things that I'm learning about my sensuality because I like
Mm.
the fabric feels on my skin. So I try different ways of wearing it. So these
Right.
are the ways that I find very helpful. The first thing I would say is play with mindful living, whether it be you eating mindfully, drinking something mindfully, listening to your music, engage your senses, stimulate them, and see how it feels to stimulate them.
I love how you put that together. I mean, it sounds so simple because I mean, this is information honestly I've heard before, and it's so interesting because I'm like it never really clicked for me, and I was like I but the way you're describing it, it makes so much sense of you're getting to know yourself and accepting yourself when you're doing that. That's the part where I just didn't get. I was like, what's the point of all of this? Like okay, I'm eating mindfully. What is that going to do to me? Like, so I
Yeah.
love that how you put that together because I'm like, oh, it makes so much sense. It's connecting to accepting who I am, and I love that. And
Hmm.
going back to you mentioned the red lipstick. Red lipstick to me, I would only wear it when I was younger, and I would like go out clubbing and want to feel sexy and so forth. But I never did it on like normal day to day life, and I started to do it recently and I noticed I felt so confident just alone. But another reason why I never wore it on my day to day because I didn't want to stand out,
Mm,
you
mm-hmm.
know? And it's like, ooh, like people are looking at me. You know what I mean? Like, but when I see other women wear it, like on a day to day life, day, I'm like, oh my God, they look so good. Like I praise them. It's like, oh my God, they look so good. But for myself, it was always different,
Mm-hmm.
or like even doing videos with red lipstick, I was like, ooh, it's too much. It's too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that's something women always struggle with is standing out. And we talked about this before where we're both Hispanic, and it's something that, it's not really taught to stand out as women. It just kind of tells us, sit down, be quiet, be a good girl type of thing, and is that something like that you had to condition a little bit as you were going through your journey?
I find that I have a very interesting experience with that because inherently had this very rebellious spirit
Mm.
around all
Mm-hmm.
these things that was being taught, and something about it just didn't sit right with me, like serving a partner or like serving men in general, because
Mm-hmm.
in Latin American culture, like it's not just that you serve your spouse or your whatever, it's a man. Like if there's
Right.
a man in the household, they get served first, right? And I was just like, this is so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
I can't wrap myself
Yes.
around this and I
Right.
can't stand behind it. And I just had a very like early ick to that energy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
everything that happened was I learned the things, right? So I learned to cook, I learned to like do home stuff, like all the things that were taught, I learned
Right.
them. It then put me in a really weird position where I'm like, I know how to do these things, but I do them with an attitude, kind of like I don't want to do it because I
Right.
associate it with that particular memory or like our
Right,
brain.
because that's what the reason they kind of taught you, because
Exactly,
that's the
exactly.
it's
So,
not really for yourself, it's
yes,
more for to
yes.
serve them. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So what I've learned and continue to learn is to do it for me, right? I'm not the type of
Mm-hmm.
person that was very big on like cleaning. I actually had a disdain for cleaning for a really long time because I just felt like I was made to clean all the time when I was a kid. And I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in an environment where my aunts used to say, "Why are you sitting down? There are always things to do."
Oh
That's the
yeah.
environment that I grew up in, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you know, in that environment, like you always feel like you got to be doing something, you got to be on the alert because you're not allowed to relax and to
That's
calm
mm-hmm.
down. So what I've been learning and continue to learn is to do the things because they feel good to me. Cleaning does feel good to me. Like there's a part of me that enjoys cleaning, that enjoys being in a clean space, that enjoys the feng shui of the room once it's been
Mm-hmm.
cleared out, that mentally feels like a load has been removed. Like there's a part of me that feels like that, just with this strong conviction that
Mm-hmm.
there's a part of me that's like, I hate doing this shit. This is dumb. Like I want to hire somebody to come do this cleaning, right? So
Right.
both of these things are coexisting. And what I am learning is to allow myself to do it because I enjoy it. Like I enjoy cleaning. I enjoy having a clean home. I enjoy preparing a delicious meal. I enjoy seeing my family enjoy my delicious meal, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
learning to lean into that part of it and taking that part that serves me because I threw everything with the bathwater. I was like, I want nothing to do with this shit. Like I'm good.
Right.
And now I'm seeing like, no, there's that you can coexist in both of these worlds with a joy and with compassion and with grace, and is allowing myself to be in the intersection of that I've been learning.
I love that. Yeah, I can totally agree with you. I was always the person like, why do I have to do this for them? Like, it makes no
Exactly.
sense. Like, I would see my mom, go to work and then coming home and then cooking, and I could see she's tired, and so forth. And I always be like, why are you doing this? Like, where did you find all this energy? And I mean, that's how she grew up, right? But yeah, I was definitely the one that would question, and I was the rebel, right? Like
Yeah.
didn't see my sister ever asking those questions, right? I was the one being like, why? I see no
Mm.
point to it, right? And I feel like, do you think like growing up like that? I mean, I'm sure it's not just Hispanics, right? It's so many different women in different cultures that are raised that way. You think that is something why we're really not taught to really embrace our sensuality a little bit more? Because I feel like when I used to hear sensuality, to me, it was like so awkward because I felt it wasn't taught to me. It was something so, you know, uncomfortable. Like we should just not talk about this. This is like a closed doors type of thing. Like where's your perspective on that?
Mm. I feel like people can only give us what they have.
Mm,
And the initial things that comes up first is that for many of, at least I can speak to the women that raised me, their sexuality was something they needed protecting from. Like they
mm,
learned that if they dress a certain way, then men would do certain things.
mm-hmm,
So part of their what comes off as them almost shrinking our
mm-hmm,
connection to our sensuality and also by extension our sexuality came from this space of wanting to protect, wanting to like give us what they had as the tool to protect. And because they didn't have developed this vocabulary that we have now to discuss the
mm-hmm,
topics and that self the way they learned to navigate these things themselves, that's what they were giving us, right? So
mm-hmm,
things like care for a man and feed them and those other things, I think that was for them their way of like, here's how you can get somebody to be there for you and to support you and not do this by yourself because
mm-hmm,
this is the things that have helped me do that. And yes, things are not perfect for me. At the same time, this is what I have to share with you. This is the tools I have to give to you, right?
mm-hmm,
And in many cases, they saw their sensuality be weaponized and their sexuality be
mm-hmm,
weaponized. So the way that they learned to navigate was to hide it, was to not show it, like particularly in Garifuna community, which I'm a part of, the Garifunas, their traditional garbs are very loose fitting garbs. They're not form fitting stuff.
mm-hmm,
And I find that those are some of those nuanced ways in which they were given like this yes, dress, but be very like demure with it, for lack of a better term,
Right, right.
conservative with it, right?
Hmm.
Because you don't want to evoke certain things that you don't desire. Like I'll give you an example. I grew up by the water. Like I was born in the part of Honduras where I'm from.
Hmm.
There's like 10-minute walk, not even 10-minute walk, 7-minute walk from my house to the beach. And my aunts used to say, you can put on a traje de baño, you can put on a bathing suit,
Hmm.
have shorts, and you gotta have
Right.
a shirt on top of it, right?
Hmm.
So that was them being like, porque nunca se sabe. You
Right.
never know,
Never
right? So
know.
now there's this responsibility that is on me now to make sure that
Hmm.
I'm not showing up in a way that can lead to a you never know situation in certain
Hmm.
situations here.
Right.
And that led to me being a type of adult where I wasn't confident in my body because I
Mhm.
didn't know how to be in my body in its nakedness and not feel afraid that I may be leading someone into some action that I don't want. And I
Right.
can control other people, right? Like
Right.
this
Yeah.
version of me knows that. That version of me does not know that. And they themselves were thinking that that's the way to protect themselves. So it wasn't until like my 30s that I had the that I felt confident enough to put on a thong bathing suit and to like
Hmm.
try that out. Mind you, I've been fit pretty much my whole life. Like I'm someone that works out, I pole dance, I've done marathons. Like I'm someone that takes care of her body in that way. And I wasn't feeling confident in it, even though I had the quote unquote body, right? So
Right.
like
That's so interesting. Okay.
so these are how these things impact me, and this is how these behaviors shifted me and the things I learned to experience because I did not want to be treated in a different way. And then you layer that with like motherhood. I have a toddler. A lot of beliefs around motherhood come up, right?
Hmm.
Conditioning around like moms don't dress like this. Now
Mm-hmm.
you have to dress like this, and like
Right.
all these things that you in the moment you don't realize, especially with your rebellious spirit, you're like that shit me entra por un oído, me sale por el otro.
Right.
That does not impact me at all. And then
Right.
you find yourself in those situations and you're like, oh my God, like I believed some of these things. Like
Yeah.
it seeped into my subconscious. Like I absorbed it as a sponge because
Mm-hmm.
I was a kid. So I feel like that's what how that kind of comes into play, where it shows up as our connection from our sensuality is almost eroded, but in reality, it's pushed in a different way. Like we are now pushed to like learn to be sensual and to see the beauty in our sensuality, something that the women that may have raised us
Hmm.
didn't do for whatever reasons they were. And now we can, and we can do it freely because we're not confined to the things that they were experiencing. So that's how I've learned to see this and what I've learned from my experience and the ones of people around me too.
I love how you put that because honestly, a lot of things you were mentioning, I didn't really connect it on how we were raised in regards to our bodies and protecting it. Didn't realize, yeah, yeah, that's definitely one way of, like you mentioned, like cover yourself up, like, don't stand out too much, that's too short, or, anything like that, where I didn't realize that by them doing that, which that's their way of protecting us, right? Because that's
Mhm.
all they know. I didn't realize that also that was actually making me not wanting to look at my own body.
Yes.
Like I
Yes.
was I was in a way protecting myself in a way by not looking at my own body
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
being okay by seeing it and touching it and so forth and embracing how it looks. Wow, that I had just had a little breakthrough right there. I didn't that was so good. I didn't really realize that. So as you're talking and everything like that, it's really a lot about deconditioning so you can embrace your sensuality. Is that correct?
I would say so, definitely. And first of all, congrats on your breakthrough. Every breakthrough is a beautiful breakthrough. So
Yes.
I love it when things come together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I just lost your question.
Um, oh, about deconditioning. Everything pretty much to connect to your sensuality is really about deconditioning because you're sort of ashamed to even do it because of everything we were taught.
Yeah, yeah. There's a the deconditioning is a part of it. Like it's part of the self-awareness of it all. That's
Mm-hmm.
I define self-awareness as seeing how you act versus how you think you act, and then you can decide how you want to act. So The deconditioning is when it's what comes after you realize, oh, this is how I'm acting. This is the things that I've learned. And now you go to work with like, okay, well, here's how that the beliefs I'm going to remove from my garden. Here are the
Hmm.
weeds I'm going to plug. Or the flowers. Sometimes you just want a different set of flowers. They don't have to
Hmm.
be. There were flowers at a point that were beautiful to us at a point, and it no
Right.
longer aligns. So the deconditioning is part of that process. It's like the middle component where you are going and looking at the parts of yourself that are not in alignment and choosing to release those beliefs. It's actually one of the most perceived to be challenging parts of the process because it takes a level of effort and a level of energy that most of us have learned that we got other things to do. We have learned that we're not worthy of that, that we're not
Hmm.
worthy of letting go of the belief that unless we are a certain size, we can't come to the house because we have to hear Tia talk about this is why you don't got no man, we got gorda, right? So
Hmm.
we don't want to deal with that stuff. So we just pretend like it doesn't exist and we go through life not allowing ourselves to experience like the liberation that comes from that. So it is a lot of the conditioning. The conditioning is part of the process because then you can also condition yourself, right? Like
Hmm.
once you decondition the things you don't desire, now what you got to put in there? Because you got to put
Yeah.
something in there. If not, your brain is going to put something in there for you. So
All right.
be intentional about, I no longer have this belief that I have to be a size set small to be beautiful. I now have a belief that my beauty has nothing to do with my body size. It has to do with how I show up to the world and feeling good about that. It doesn't depend on none of these standards because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It truly is. If I
Hmm.
choose that I am beautiful,
Oh, I think you froze.
people will feel, oh, you're
Oh,
back.
yeah. I'm like, you're freezing or I'm freezing, one or the other.
Oh, it was me. So my connection was a little
It's okay.
unstable. But did you hear what I said?
The last thing I remember you saying is like beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Yes, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and the beholder is you. You got to look at yourself and see, do I find me beautiful? And
Hmm.
it's okay to want to change certain things because that was something I learned when I started to tap into my sensuality is that I was experiencing judgment because there were parts of me that I wanted to change. And I
Hmm.
learned like, hey, it's okay that you want to change these things. It doesn't mean that you don't love yourself and you don't love these things about you. It means that they're not in alignment and then you want to do something else.
Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you. And that's okay. It is okay that you want to change your hair color. It's okay that you
Hmm.
may want to drop a size or two. It's okay that you want to start working out and be toned. Like these things don't, they all coexist with who you are. So part of tapping into our sensuality is allowing ourselves to be okay with who we are and where we are in that process. And that is why sensuality and sexuality often get conflicted, is because they impact each other. If you don't
Hmm.
feel safe in your body, if you don't feel comfortable in your own skin, it's going to be very difficult to have a genuine connection with someone and
Hmm.
invite them into being in your body as well because you already don't want to be there.
Right.
So they can sense that energy and something feels off when it comes to the sexuality of it all because it is something is off, is how you feel about yourself. And most people are not present in the moment to notice what really is going on and they just kind of push themselves through it or
Hmm.
push through it like some women they lie about having orgasms. I'm not that person. I will
Hmm.
tell you the truth. And I have in the past, and that has led to certain consequences. And I feel like, again, this fear of like you showing up and people retaliating against you and towards you,
Hmm.
that impacts your openness in your sexuality because then you feel like I don't feel comfortable about my breast, so I gotta have a shirt on. Now
Hmm.
the vibes are different now because you have a shirt on, right? Or
Right.
feel like I don't feel comfortable with, this part of my body, so the lights have to be off, or the lights you can't like whatever it is. Like
Yeah.
these type of things that begin to impact your perception of what pleasure looks like to you because you're now operating from a fearful space, not from a space of I look like I'm the shit and I feel
Hmm.
like I'm the shit. And let's just be clear, you ought to feel blessed that you get to hit some of this, okay? Like
Right. Right.
energy, then I don't feel good in my own skin, because then
Hmm.
you want to hide and then you're not as open. So you actually are, in ways, we actually block ourselves from having
From it.
orgasm because we're
Yeah.
not open to the release that is required because we
Hmm.
don't feel safe with our own skin and we don't feel safe among other people. And it shows up like that.
Yeah, I mean that makes so much sense in regards to that connection to it, right? And I feel like that's always such a for me it was such a confusion at first of which was which, but yeah, it does intertwine with both, right? It leads to that, right? And I love that. So here's a question that I have. No, I know we're talking about like sensuality and everything like that. What have you noticed, or even like your clients, like when they start embracing their sensuality and accept who they are? How does that change their life? And most importantly, also, because a lot of women who are listening are business owners, how does that impact, you know, their life and business? Have you noticed a big shift in it?
I love this question. Thank you for asking this question. The first thing I would say, and I know y'all are thinking it, is they make more money, point blank, period. And the reason why they make more money is because when you are presenting yourself, and I wish I remember what was a scientific thing this is named after, there are different things people connect with you. They connect on, yes, how you look, with their visuals,
Hmm.
connect on the sound of your voice, like what kind of confidence are you projecting with what you're saying. They connect with your own vibration, so they feel the vibe, like what's your vibe like, and they can tell like, oh, this person believes what they are selling,
Hmm.
so I believe them because they believe in what they are offering to me. They are sold on themselves. And when women begin to connect with their sensuality, they are no longer in a conversation wondering, do I look pretty? Do I look correct?
Hmm.
Am I wearing the right thing? Are they going to think this lipstick is weird? Like, they're not thinking about that because they feel good about themselves. I don't have those thoughts because I love the way I smell right now. I love what I'm wearing.
Hmm.
I listen to my playlist on my way here, and I am that girl. And I love what I'm eating. I had some delicious, nutritious food earlier today, and I feel so energized. Like they're coming into this space with a different sense than when they are questioning themselves because
Yeah.
they are so overwhelmed by the goodness of the environment they've created for themselves. So people buy into that energy because they're like, I want to be around someone that feels like this. And it
Hmm.
doesn't matter what they're selling. It's not about what they're selling. It's about the energy which they are vibrating. And then people are like, I want to be around this person because what people are buying when it comes to business is access. They're
Right.
buying access to you, especially if you offer a service, they're getting access to you and to your service, to your energetic signature. So when you
Mhm.
tap into your sensuality, you are shifting your energetic signature to that of someone that feels confident, that is someone that knows who they are, because you do in order to
Right.
tap into this
Right.
about yourself, someone that's willing to do what's uncomfortable because there's an element of discomfort associated with tapping into your sensuality. And they're connected with someone that knows what they don't want and what they want to
Hmm.
stand for because they're choosing to stand for the things that they desire. And people want to buy access to that, right? So they make more money because of that. They are opening up to more opportunities because of that. They become magnetic. That's what it means to be magnetic. You hear that people talking about that?
Hmm.
That's what
Yeah.
I mean. It's to be in that space where your frequency is doing the talking, and it doesn't matter. You could be selling garbage bags outside. There will be a line to buy your garbage.
I love that.
It's not about that. It's about you, right?
Hmm.
So when you know, accept who you are, you're no longer spending your energy rejecting who you are. And people can tell that you are not rejecting who you are so that they show up to you with a different energy. So there's a financial return to that. There's also, they just feel that's like the surface level. That's the least thing that happens is that they make more money. On the other
Wow.
side of that, they are also learning to be gentler with other people. They want to be kinder to themselves and want to be kind to other people. They don't want to lash on their kids when their kids
Mm.
come and they're having a meeting and they're like,
Hmm.
oh, well, I said I needed to have this time for myself, and I hear kids come asking for something. They want to be the type of parent that has the capacity to say, hold on, let's talk about this real quick, and then I'm gonna come back to what I'm doing without losing a beat, without feeling like she is not doing enough, without feeling
Mm,
guilty,
the
without feeling
guilt. Yeah, definitely the guilt for sure.
guilt and the shame. They are able to hold that space. As spouses, they are able to show up to their spouses with a different level of authenticity. So when their spouse is going through something, they hold that space because they have been holding space for themselves. So they don't feel like I'm always doing for you and you never doing for me. No,
Hmm.
they feel like I do for me. And right now, because I am full and my cup is overflowing, I can overflow onto you and I can show up there for you. They also advocate for themselves because they know what they want to eat for dinner. So when their spouse is like, what do you want to eat? They have an answer and they take in ownership of themselves because they're willing to say what they want even if their spouse don't like it. And he looks like they get glasses that they want, even if the spouse don't like it, because they like it, right?
Right.
They keep the nail color that they like, even if the spouse doesn't like it, because they like it, right? So then now they're teaching their spouse that they don't depend on them to like certain things in life. They like what they like. They have their own authenticity that's guiding them. And as friends, they become role models for their friends because their friends also want to bring that energy to the table. We all have friends that amplify our energy, and we have
Mhm.
some friends that contract our energy, depending
Right.
on what they are. And they're able to see which ones is which and determine, like, okay, here's the boundaries I want to set in my relationships because I know who I am and what matters to me and who is best suited for those dynamics. And I'm willing to release the people that are not. So it just becomes this transformation, Denise, that I can
Mhm.
talk on for hours and hours.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to you, I was like, "Oh my God, like you're saying everything that I mean, it sounds really magical." And the reason I say that because just the way you were describing is like you're not questioning, oh, how you're looking in video, or maybe you're not questioning, oh my God, did I
Exactly.
say that correctly? It's just like, no, that's how it came out. Even if I said it wrong, like it's all right. We all make mistakes, you know? And it's so interesting because that is literally what goes through my head sometimes, right? It's just
Mhm.
like even creating this podcast, I was like, okay, how am I going to present? Like it's all of this, like all these things in my head that it
Mhm.
doesn't allow me to be present and it doesn't
Yeah.
allow me to even enjoy the process, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
that's one of the biggest things I hear people enjoy the process. I was like, I can't stop my head. Like I can stop everything that's going on in my head, you know? So it's just like what you're saying. I was like, oh my God, I look forward to like beginning this process because of that. I feel like that's
Mhm.
one of the biggest things that holds me back a lot of the time as a business owner, where I'm overthinking everything and decide not to do anything because I'm so stuck in the
Yeah.
overthinking.
And that's very normal, Denise. Like I've engaged in that before. I'm pretty sure there'll be other moments where I do engage in that energy too, and I see it with my
Right,
clients as well. So it doesn't mean that you're not gonna have those moments,
right.
right? You're not gonna experience that. What it means is you are gonna decide to spend less time in that
Mm.
victim energy and
Hmm.
focus on what I call your icon energy, which is the energy of what you can control, the energy of what you can show powerfully to. And you're going to choose that energy over the other. And
Hmm.
that is the dance. That's the process, right? The
Yeah,
process is the ability to say, I've gone through this a gazillion times, and every gazillion time, I'm going to choose me. I'm going to choose to learn about
mhm,
me. I'm going to choose to do the uncomfortable thing for me. A lot of women aren't willing to be uncomfortable for themselves.
right.
And there is a level of discomfort that's associated, and I call this divine discomfort, is the discomfort that emerges when you are choosing yourself. There's a level that's going to happen because you're going to start to see, I like wearing a little bit more provocative clothing.
Hmm.
Maybe I like wearing a lace bra and a blazer. That feels scandalous. Oh my God. Like,
Right.
so many of my family would never wear something like that. This is too, whatever. And all of these things start to come up. Will you have the courage to wear it? Will you have the courage to wear it
Hmm.
first around your house? Will you have the courage to wear it to go outside? Will you have the courage to wear it and know that people are looking at you?
Hmm.
You are the center of attention right now. And will you be okay with that attention just being a part of who you are? Like that's required for us to step into this thing because most people they start to dabble into their sensuality and they realize the fact that I like this makes me uncomfortable.
Mm.
The fact that I enjoy this, it feels wrong.
Hmm.
The fact that this is what turns me on feels like I'm sinning. or doing something for yourself.
That's a whole nother topic right there.
We don't have the
We don't
capacity
have the capacity for that. I was
to
like,
get
oh my
into
God, when you
that
said
one.
sin, I was like, oh my God, that's another topic on its own,
We all
girl.
know that's a whole thing in and of itself, right? So, like
Yes.
a big part of being a woman and tapping into your sensuality is touching your body. And I'm not talking about in
Mhm.
a sexual sense.
Right.
I'm talking about lotioning your body, putting
Hmm.
your cream on or your oils when you get out of the shower, cleaning your skin. If you have been raised to have an apprehension to
Hmm.
touching your body, guess what?
Right.
Your skincare is going to be different than someone that
Hmm.
doesn't have that apprehension, right? If you have been raised to cover yourself up, then your voice is going to have a different level of conviction than someone that was raised to speak up.
Right.
So this is how these things begin to take shape. And when we
Mhm.
notice, like you taking the time to tap into your sensuality is the ultimate form of execution. It's the ultimate form of tapping into your inner God, into that voice of God that's within us. Like
Mhm.
that, I can't say that enough because it's you learning to see yourself clearly and being okay with what's on the mirror and choosing to change things if you want to, not out of hate, out of love,
Mhm.
out of self-love. It's a different way of living. I
Yeah.
highly recommend it, y'all.
Yeah. I mean, the way you described it, honestly, I feel like it's beautiful. It's perfect. And I know there's so many aha moments. I'm like, oh my God, I need to rewatch this podcast just because you said so many amazing, honestly life-changing uh, moments that anyone can apply just by listening to what you just shared with me, because I know it has for me. And I thank you for also sharing that, to be gentle with yourself, right? Because you will kind of like start and then like kind of go back, and it's just about how you manage it, right? Kind of dancing with it. And
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of people compare themselves so much, and that's a whole nother topic. So it's a whole
Mhm.
nother topic. But I love that you share that too, because people will be like, oh my God, this is amazing. She has it all together. I strive for that. But at the same time, is like, yeah, I love that you share. Like, hey, I have moments that I do go back, but it's like what you do with that, right? Like where you don't stay in that victim mentality that unfortunately a lot of people stick way too long.
Exactly.
So my next thing is like, what, if anyone wants to connect with you, wants to talk to you more, like where can they connect with you?
Yes. Before I share where y'all can connect with me, and I will, I was wanted something that you mentioned just
Oh,
bring up
okay.
something that I wanted to share.
Oh, you froze one more time.
And that's about those, and I used to be really upset when I had those moments that I would consider like a low.
Okay, start from
That
the
I would
beginning.
consider like a low.
Before you said that, I think it didn't catch that because you kind of froze a little bit.
So when you were speaking, something came up for me to share, and that is I used to have this moments where I would strongly judge myself for having moments that I considered to be lows,
Hmm.
where things are not going my way, and I feel like I'm being quote unquote punished, where I feel like, oh, I didn't do something good enough, so now I'm receiving the consequence of my action because I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. Like
Mm-hmm.
that, I used to have a lot of judgment for those moments. And
Mm-hmm.
what I want to share, and I really encourage everybody that listens to this conversation and re-listens, because that's the beauty of this podcast conversations you're having, Denise, with your guests, is that people can come back and re-listen. You are
Mm-hmm.
going to be a new person every time you hear it. So you're going to pick up different things.
Right.
And what I wanted to share with you all is in those moments, I've learned that to love the process or to enjoy the process means to be grateful that those moments show up. Because the
Mm.
moments when I'm having a low, I used to see it as a punishment. I used to see
Right.
it as something that was a sign I did something wrong or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And now what I see is it is an invitation for me to measure my progress.
Oh,
There
I
were
like
things
that.
that before would have rattled me, it would have taken
Mm.
me out, full on depression mode, that now I am able to see, I'm able to spot, I'm able to hold grace for my heart while I'm going through it, and then I'm able to let it go. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't know that those was possible unless things that were quote unquote lows were present for me. Because
Right.
it's in the lows that you test to see how do you show up to those situations. You look at your progress basically. So I stopped looking at it as this is a sign of a punishment to this is a graduation. Like, how would I show up to these things now that I've gone through all these different
Mm,
things that happened before? So it is possible to approach it from this way because in life you don't know what's going to happen.
right.
And when you are able to enjoy that process of I'm learning and unlearning and learning and unlearning
Right,
and giving
right.
and releasing, your life is much more joyful and possible to be joyful no matter what's going on. Okay, so where can you find me?
Yeah, where can we find you? Yeah, but thank you for sharing that. I feel like that is such a great message for everybody because I feel that people are very hard on themselves, including myself. I had moments like that, and I do have moments of your like you shared. I'm like, oh my God, I've done so much work on myself because other times I would be a hot mess. If that situation would have happened, I would be freaking out right now if that would have happened a couple of years ago. So yeah, I love that. I love that, and it is possible to get to that point. And I feel
Mhm.
like it's different levels, right? Where you're like, okay, I got this. Let's move forward. Let's see what I can do and use all your tools that you have to get back to it.
Ah,
So thanks
thank
for
you for
sharing that. But
sharing.
yes, share with us how everybody can connect with you.
Yeah, so y'all are catching me as I'm getting ready to kick off a social media break. So you can
Mm,
actually catch me on YouTube, Yenory, youtube.com/Yenory Pouncil. And that's where I'm going to be sharing all the things. You can also head to my website, YenoryPouncil.com, if you want to work with me and if you want to explore what it's like to work with me one-on-one, you can do that there. And then I currently have doors open for the self-trust system, which is a self-paced experience for women business owners that are desiring to trust their intuition so that they can show up with confidence, they can tap into their sensuality if they want
mm-hmm,
to, and they can like their lives and like enjoy their lives and be excited to live their lives.
mm-hmm,
When we show up like that, we ignite a chain reaction of transformation around everybody around us. And we don't realize how powerful that is
right.
until we're in the middle of it. So I want more women that are business owners to experience this for themselves. So you can come and be a part of the self-trust system if you would like to experience it for you. So that's how you can get in touch with me. You can head to yenorypouncil.com, click start here to figure out how we can work together. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/Yenory Pouncil, where I share all things on all things and where I am building a community, not an audience.
I love that. And I will have all the information as well in the captions, guys. So definitely check that out. So that way it's a lot easier to find her and connect with her. I mean, I learned so much just alone interviewing her. So I appreciate you so much for making the time for us.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful. I have had a podcast for many years and I know how intimate the dynamic
Yeah.
is with the audience. So I am wishing you an amazing season as you launch this project and you extend yourself in this way and your own self-discovery. And I know it's going to be truly what your heart desires. So thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.